everybody, this is Beachcricket and this is Cinnamon Girl, and I am going to be doing a whole rebuild on my van. Got some ideas. One of the things that we're going to start off first is get me some solar finally, so I'm really happy about that. And we're going to take everything out of it, and I've got my tent over there. We're going to store everything in there as we do the rebuild. We're taking out the carpet, we're taking out the automatic folding bed, and we are going to construct a new bed. We're going to put a new floor in. We're going to do some remodeling, and it's going to be fantastic. So stay tuned, we're going to have it all going.
So what we're doing for her Beachcricket's battery setup is we went and bought 2 golf cart batteries. And yes, people will nag us right now because they are open cell batteries, which I'll explain all that later. But what we need to do is we have to plumb these so that we can get 12 volts instead of 6 volts on these batteries. So we have our jumper cable right here, and it's going to go from positive to negative and create a series connection with these batteries. And we will be connecting, instead of 3 cell batteries, we will in essence make one 12 volt battery that has 6 cells. So this one is negative, this guy back here is positive, this jumper cable is labeled positive and negative. That's how we're going to connect it, and it's as simple as that to connect. Now we have 12 volts. Once we have 12 volts, now we have just regular car battery, only with 225 amp hours. And this is how we are going to create her battery bank with these 2 batteries. Now after this, we will then be adding a charge controller to her solar panel, and after that we will connect back to the batteries. Okay, the next step is to figure out where your charge controller is going to go for your solar. We picked right here, so I'm going to go ahead and figure out where square is on here and get it mounted so that then we can start running wires. Okay, so the next step after you have your solar charge controller mounted is to run your wires from your charge controller to your batteries. And you are always going to want an inline fuse so that if for something happens, it blows and saves your charge controller as well as your panels and your batteries. So we went and picked up, this is 10 gauge, and then we have both colors so that it's color coordinated so that anybody back here can look at it and figure this out. So red is going to be positive, black's going to be negative. Then we're going to put our inline fuse right next to our battery, and then we will connect everything up, and I will show you guys that next. So what I'm doing here is I'm installing the rings so that I can connect to the batteries and connect from the solar charge controller to the batteries. And that's all I'm doing here. It's nothing too elaborate. It's very simple and anybody can do it. You just got to make sure that you get your these guys nice and tight onto your wire before you do anything, and I always like to go over them with tape or heat shrink them so that you get a nice watertight seal. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure and figure out how long I need for my battery leads to the charge controller. So I'm looking at how much because this door is going to move back in and out. So we want to give it enough lead that it can flex. So I am going to just kind of figure out how much I need minimum and then give myself enough space so that it can be out of the way. So like, see how that's nice and loose? That's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to give myself another 6 inches and cut it there.
Scott's the other guy that was in there.
I didn't go. I've been in my van.
Where did Scott go?
I don't know. So Paul was probably in his van.
So then we can look and see that I have plenty of extra lead. And what I'll do is I will take a zip tie and make little coils so that it can coil in and out as we close and open the door so that it's out of the way. So what I've done now is I've connected the battery to the charge controller. Next step will be to cut and connect the leads for the solar panel, which we're setting up to be a portable panel, not just fixed on the roof panel. The next step from here, we've got the wires to the battery nice and tight and clean. The next step will be to connect her inverter, and we're going to use the cables that came with the cable with the alligator clips and mount her inverter right inside like this, so that we can then we're going to mount it like that so that then we can pull the power from her batteries and create 120 volt power. And then she doesn't have to worry about getting in and out of her rig to flip the switch on and off. I will get back to you once I have this hooked up. Okay, so I've went ahead and connected the battery to the charge controller. So we can see the lines have been ran and connected to the positive. And then I've also connected her inverter, which is a 750 watt pure sine wave inverter, and we hardwired it in. That's what this is. Then I now have connected the leads to the solar panel from here, but I still haven't put a fuse in, so the batteries are still not getting power yet. The next step will be to add the fuse and connect the panels to the charge controller. And I will show you how that's done. So what we've done is we've made her panel portable, even though it's supposed to be a stationary panel. And then we've taken and wired it so that it comes through her door. The door closes. And we just run it through the door to the charge controller. And then from the charge controller, we run to the battery. And from the battery, we run to the inverter. And you can see that she's able to charge her computer and her phone off of it and still be at full battery. She's at 13.7 right now. If I can get it to focus. Yeah, it's not going to focus. But her inverter will tell her her battery voltage, and that's how she's going to be able to monitor her battery status. Okay.
Okay, everybody, stay tuned for more because we're going to have more upgrades, and just follow along because you're going to get to see it all.